Welcome back, everybody, for season 2 of the Studio Chatter podcast. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving and enjoyed yourselves. Today's guest is Igaito, a good friend of mine who has just released his amazing debut single, Papercuts, available on all streaming services. If you're listening to this on YouTube, you can click the link in the description below to check it out. And just a note, while I know this season just started, I'm actually going to be out of town next week, so we'll have to skip next week. So there won't be an episode unless I'm really lucky. At any rate, without further ado, here is my discussion with Igaito. Igaito, welcome to the Studio Chatter podcast, my friend.
Thank you, Craig. Thanks for having me.
So you are the first guest of season 2, so the pressure is on.
Oh no, I'm sweating already.
Yeah, I've been actually wanting to interview you for a while because we've been friends for a while, and you have a new record out called Papercuts, and I absolutely love it. I thought it was a beautiful record. What made you want to put this record out?
Well, firstly, thank you. I guess it's a bit of a long story, I guess. How deep do you want to go?
Oh, we got time, so I mean...
I've always wanted to put out something that was like electronic based, and the last year I've been really working on that. And I always felt like this was like the track that I guess put the most time into. It started off as a track. It was actually one of the first tracks I wrote. And it was terrible when I wrote it the first time. I wrote it first and then I left it on the hard drive. I was like, yeah, this is good. I'll come back to this at another time. And I came back and I hated it. So I was like, okay, there's some good in this. Let's see if we can work it around a bit more. And then it ended up in what you can hear now. And I'm really happy with it now.
You definitely should be. How long have you been producing?
On and off for about let me have a think, probably since about 2018, maybe about 2018.
And how old are you now?
I'm 25.
Oh wow, 25. Okay. Yeah. Because you said that it was one of the first songs you'd written, so I figured, okay, either he is just really, really talented to where he the first track or one of the first tracks he ever written sounds that polished, or something else is up. So that's what kind of threw me off there.
Yeah, it's the something else, I think. I'm very lucky in that I have gotten to work with a lot of really phenomenal songwriters and musicians in the past 6 years or so, and I think I've drawn a lot from all those people that I've worked with. But yeah, producing my own music really only started properly in the last 2 years, I guess, since the pandemic started.
Was this because you weren't able to perform? Is this what allowed you to have time to write your own stuff and produce your own stuff?
Yeah, pretty much. So by trade, I'm a session musician. And I've always been that person in the back that's played with the other people. And I've never really had my own project where I kind of took the reins on my own thing. And it was always something that I wanted to do, but never really had an extended period of time to sit down and have a think about what I wanted to achieve, what kind of music I wanted to write. And then when the pandemic came around in March 2020, I just had all this free time where I was still craving that feeling I got from either making or playing music, and I just needed to fill it with something. So I just got really into firstly listening to a lot of electronic music, and then working on being like, hey, this is something I think I might be okay at doing.
Wow. So you are a session musician by trade. So the pandemic must have really affected you, huh?
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. So I it was my first year out of finishing my bachelor's degree. So I finished my bachelor's degree in 2019. And sorry, I should clarify this a bit further. I went to a music college, kind of similar to, I would say it's pretty similar to Berkeley over in the US.
What's the name of the school?
So it's called BIM, which now stands for British and Irish Modern Music Institute.
Oh, cool.
There's institute at the end as well. So essentially it's like a popular music course, like a degree course. And essentially you major in an instrument or in songwriting, and you study that for 4 years. And yeah, it was great. I had a great time there. I studied bass there for 4 years. And
so bass is your main instrument?
Yeah, instruments is a bit of a deep one as well. But when I studied in college, yeah, it was bass was my main instrument.
How many instruments do you play?
Let me have a think.
What would you say is your main instrument now?
It's probably split between bass and keys, mainly piano. I'm a classically trained piano player as well, and I've been studying that since I was about maybe 10 years old. So it's kind of split between the two. I got a lot of gigs playing keys and piano for people. So yeah, it's split around that quite a bit mainly. But I've broadened out a little bit. I've always played a bit of guitar. Got to play guitar for a few gigs. I had a gig actually last weekend that I was playing keys and guitar for. I recently picked up trumpet in the last year. I'm really bad at it, but it's a lot of fun.
Dude, the last time I played trumpet was in college, and the minute that I played it, I was like, I'm glad I never went into brass instruments, because my lip was so sore the next day that I could barely talk. Like, I had a lisp for like a week. It was terrible. So dude, I gave up.
It sucks getting the injuries.
Yeah, I'll tell you an instrument that was even more difficult for me to pick up, and that was clarinet. I failed clarinet class when I was in university because the major that I was in was composition, and you have to literally take a class for every instrument in the orchestra.
Oh, wow. That's intense.
Mm-hmm. So you don't have to get good at each instrument. You just have to take a class on each instrument, and you have to, it's a beginner class, of course. And flute was okay. I mean, I could at least get a tone out of the flute, but the clarinet, I couldn't get a tone out of it at all. I mean, it's not something you just put up to your mouth and blow. It's not. Like, you got to like bite into it weird, and yeah, I hated it.
Yeah, I've heard woodwinds, anything with a reed is just particularly like, there's a lot of technique involved.
A lot. And you got to keep the reed wet, and just, yeah, it was crazy. I hated it. So is Papercuts the first of many? Because you have this kind of this debut single out. Is that going to be the first of many, or was that just kind of a one-off thing?
I am hoping it's the first of many. Over the last year, I've been writing quite a bit. And for the last couple of months, I've taken a break from it. I've just decided I'm just going to take it easy for a little while all the live music is back again, and I can enjoy that a bit more. So while live music is back, I kind of want to enjoy getting back into that a bit more. But I'm definitely hoping to release some more, probably after Christmas or after the new year. I might release a new one, but we'll see. I'm taking it nice and easy, and having a loose plan to follow.
Dude, I saw on your Twitter you had this super cool looking modular synth.
Oh yeah.
And you were messing with it. Did any of the sounds from that go into Papercuts?
Papercuts originally happened long before I had the modular synth, but there is some on it. Eventually it snuck its way in. All the kick drums are definitely from the modular synth because they just sound way better.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Just the kick drums, though. I think everything else on that one was mostly in the box. Although, actually, some of it was from my stage piano. Actually, had some cool patches on it that I found when I was making it. But it's either from that stage piano in the box, or the kick drums, I think, were just from the modular synth. But that's about it. I think the rest of it was like a lot of recorded stuff from office supplies around my desk at the time.
Oh wow!
I was just got really.
Is that what was that? Why it was called Papercuts?
Yeah. It was kind of part of that. I try and be very deliberate about stuff in my tracks, which as soon as I say it out loud, it sounds kind of cheesy, but yeah, I wanted to be really deliberate about like this whole theme around like just like I guess using all this office stationery as like this really percussive element, and then talking kind of in this kind of meta level about the track being a reflection on itself. Yeah, I'm a big nerd, so that's kind of where it goes.
There's kind of a rite of passage in being a producer, and that is you got to be a nerd. So, I mean, we're all kind of, in some way, kind of a nerd. So I ask this question every podcast. You know what it's going to be. Every episode, I ask the question. So how did you go from a little kid cutting class to become the great Igaito today? How did you do it?
Well, firstly, I was a very good student in school, and I never missed class. I'm just saying that so my lovely mother, if she ever listens to this, doesn't, at my big age of 25, decide you should have been in class. Started playing music around age, I'm going to say about age 5 or 6, and my parents were really supportive in a sense that they really wanted I've got 3 siblings, and we were all kind of pushed to try and learn some music at an early age, for at least a little while. Everyone else in my family did not stick with it, but I did. So around age 6, I got asked, what instrument do you want to learn? And I was like, violin. That's the one I want to learn. So I started playing violin at age 6, and I hated it, and I really sucked at it. And I'm kind of annoyed at it, that I hated it so much when I was younger, because it's something I'd really love to get back into now, with like a bit more wisdom and patience, I guess, from being a bit older. But yeah, I thought the learning curve for the instrument at that young age was a bit too steep, and I just hated practicing. I just hated how it sounded like a load of cats screeching whenever I rubbed the bow across the strings. Like I was not happy with it. But yeah, from then, about age 10, I was like, okay, I think piano is a good thing to learn. We had a piano in the house. It wasn't an acoustic piano. It was actually an electric piano, an old Yamaha one. That's still actually downstairs in this house. My sister used to play piano quite a bit, and I always was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I might try and learn that. And I learned one song by an artist called Damien Rice, who is like a singer-songwriter from Ireland. And learned that, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. You press the button, the sound comes out. This is way easier than playing the violin. And from then I started taking lessons in classical piano, and yeah, did a load of graded exams in one of the kind of music colleges in Dublin anyway, and got through quite a few grades. And I was studying that up until I was age, I don't know, I was in my 20s, my early 20s, when I stopped studying classical music anyway. So I was playing that all through. I don't know what the equivalent of the grades is as in like grade school in America. So up until about there's 12 grades in Ireland, is there? So it works like our primary school system. So you have like, so you probably have like kindergarten and then first grade. Well, I'll explain to you how it works in the United States. So there's kindergarten, which is grade 0. Okay. And around what age would you be for that? 6. 6. Okay. So normally you'd start school in Ireland at about age 5, I think.
Well, you can start at age 5 in America,
Right.
but it's not required.
Okay.
So you can do pre-K. You ever heard of
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Or like preschool?
Yeah.
All right. So pre-K is where you start. I went to pre-K. So it starts off where you're around like 4 or 5. You can start even earlier than that if you want to. Okay. I think some people call it like nursery school or something like
Gotcha.
that.
Yeah.
And then you have kindergarten, which is grade 0, and then grade 1 is first grade, and then all the way up to grade 12.
Gotcha. Yeah. So the way our system works, it would be like the first class you go in when you're age 5 or so. So we call it junior infants, and then the next class after that is senior infants, and then you go into first class at about age, you'd be 6 or 7 usually. So that's up to age 12. You're in 6th class, and that is
so that would be 6th grade for us.
Yeah, so you'd be kind of switching from there. That's your primary education. You go into secondary school then afterwards, and you have to do, or generally have to do, a minimum of 5 years. Some people can do 6 years. I did 6 years in school, but you have to do a minimum of 5. So a lot of people will finish school at age about 17, 18, about that, and you're like an adult then, and you go to college or get a job or anything else.
Yeah, for us, you have to get at least up to grade 9.
Right.
So grade 9 is not required. Grades 9 through 12 are not required. You can do what's called dropping out. It's obviously not recommended. Most people actually get through the 4 years of high school here. So, yeah, that is the way it works. And so it's kind of similar.
I think so. Well,
then why the hell does Ireland have a much higher standard of living than the United States? Y'all have universal health care over there and all kinds of stuff.
I could
it's like I look at every chart of like the most developed countries, and Ireland is always among the top, and the United States is like 15th or 16th or something.
Yeah, I could get into that. I could argue with you about it, but like all things
I'm
considered,
pretty sure we'll agree.
All things considered, it is pretty okay here. Like, you know, there are some questionable choices with the way some taxes are spent by the government, but that's a whole different issue. Anyway, back to the music stuff, I guess. About age 13, I think, I picked up the bass guitar. And my reasoning behind it was, I was like, ew, guitar chords look really hard to play. Why would I do that when I can just play one note at a time? And so I was like, that's my justification for playing bass. So age 13, I got a bass guitar. I was playing that all through my secondary school. So age 13, 14, 15, just kind of playing it. I studied music as a subject in school and played that for some of my practical assessments, like my recitals, I guess. Age 16, I joined my first band. We played terrible Red Hot Chili Peppers covers and the odd Stevie Ray Vaughan cover as well, because we were all very into that kind of style of blues, that Texas style of blues, and I still am. I love it. But yeah, 17, I didn't really do too much. 18, I was like, actually, you know what? I've been doing music for so long. I think it's time to think about going to college for it. And then when I finished my secondary school education, I went to college in BIM in Dublin and studied bass there for 4 years and met a lot of really talented and amazing people there. Got to play a lot of music with a lot of people and just had the best time in college and learned a lot, met a lot of contacts, and I'm working with a lot of them since.
Nice. That's a really cool story, man. Really cool story.
Yeah, it's kind of, I know I always get annoyed when people say music is my life, and I'm just like, no, it's mine. It is mine. I own it. But no, like it's been a pretty important part of my life, and like it's yeah, I'm glad I stuck with it because it's something I thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people don't realize just how much dedication it takes to do this because there are so many. I don't know if this happened in your family or not, but I mean, there's always going to be somebody who says, "Oh, you're chasing a dream." No matter how talented you are, no matter how good they think you are, it's like, "Oh, you got to know the right people." And there is some truth to that,
Oh, for
obviously,
sure.
but I mean, it is just, I mean, I'm really surprised that you didn't, I mean, maybe it did happen, but I'm surprised you didn't talk about how anybody tried to discourage you from it or try to keep you from doing it or that sort of thing. Everybody just seemed really supportive of you. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm really lucky in that sense. My parents have always been really supportive of me playing music in particular and studying music as well. Um, they always wanted me to go to college, but they always thought there's no point in studying a course that you don't love or studying something that you don't love. And they were like, you can study whatever you want as long as you love it. And if you love it, you're going to make it work for you, essentially. And I think they're right. I think they were totally right. There's a lot of people who like their parents will be like, "Oh, you got to get a good job. You need to study like finance or business or law or something because there's money in that."
Hmm.
And they end up going to college and hating it. Yeah, my parents were like, "No, we don't want that. You know, we don't want our child to hate what they're doing. You know, there's more to life than earning a book."
Well, at least you actually finished college. I didn't. I went to music school too, but I didn't finish. So at least you actually
I
finished.
mean, like,
My parents are definitely supportive. It's just that they didn't like me quitting school.
yeah, but I mean, like,
They didn't like that too
you're
much.
still in it. Like, it isn't for everyone. I think like sometimes that environment doesn't really help people, and I know a lot of people who ended up not finishing their degrees and are still doing great work. And probably even better
Well,
outside the environment that was contained within their degree, I guess.
Well, my parents didn't know that I would continue.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. When I quit school, they thought I'd quit music altogether.
Mm.
So that was the deal there. My parents were kind of the opposite of a lot of parents because I had a stage mom, just straight up. I'm not even gonna lie. I mean, they were all about me doing music. I mean, they very much wanted me to do music. So it was kind of the opposite of a lot of people whose parents kind of discouraged them from pursuing music and make them go into something more, quote, practical.
Mm. That's awesome, though, having that kind of musical relationship within your family. I think that's something that's so special. Um, it's the one thing about my family that I wish they kind of understood is like how important music is for them. Like none of my family play instruments at the moment. They love listening to music. Some of them love listening to some very questionable music.
Like what?
Like my younger brother is like he's big into I guess like this kind of very bubblegummy kind of very radio friendly, but like not really, that engaging kind of music. If you get me, like really kind of stale pop music is is how I describe it. It just doesn't do anything for me. And
Hmm.
then my older brother is like crazy into country music, like really into country music.
Country?
Yeah, like really into it.
Wow.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought country was only like an American and Canadian thing. Like,
Country music is quite big in Ireland, would you believe? Like on the west of Ireland in particular, uh, there's a huge amount of support for country music. It's actually really funny because just the other day, country artist Garth Brooks. I don't know if you're familiar with the name.
Oh, I'm very familiar.
I got friends in low places. Everyone knows him, you know?
Yeah.
He announced he was doing 5 shows, like stadium shows in Ireland, like 100,000 capacity, and they all sold out.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, like 500,000 people, like 500,000 people going to see it. It's crazy.
Wow, yeah. That's nuts. I'm very curious. So do you consider yourself as more of, at this point, an artist who produces his own music, or are you primarily a producer who produces other artists?
I would definitely say the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really worked with a lot of other artists, to be quite honest, in a production kind of sense. So I definitely consider myself an artist who produces themselves rather than a producer that produces others. It's something I'd like to get into, I think, further down the line. It's not something I've really considered at the moment. But I think it would be something that I'd like to have a crack at, you know, try and work with some other people and try and realize their vision, you know. But for now, I know I'm comfortable with my own vision, so that's kind of nice.
So, like you had said before, Papercuts is not going to be the only track. There are others that are coming.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I hope.
See, now you done said it. Now it has to happen. So it's kind of like you done put it out there to the public.
Yeah, it's real now.
So now
yeah. This is kind of like how I felt about releasing Papercuts. It's like, it's out there now. It is real. And now that I've said this, and this is going to be released, it is real.
How long did it take to do that one?
Papercuts. Papercuts was, I mean, if you're talking like calendar months, it is like a year I spent working on that track, really, to be quite honest.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking actual amount of time, it was probably about 3 months, I'd say, of work on it. Yeah, I did spend a lot of time on it, but it came from 2 different versions. The first version I worked on was when I was starting to make electronic music, and I started making more, and I learned very quickly that I was making some very bad decisions in either sound design or mixing. And I managed to kind of learn from those mistakes and make a track that was similar to the original, but still a bit different and sounding better, I thought.
Oh, yeah, I do that all the time, because there are songs that I have done that it's really just another version of a record that I did like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I've been doing that more lately. Yeah, I definitely am with you on that.
Yeah,
and I've been producing for a long time, and so I have a lot of material that I can bring back from the dead and try to make better.
Yeah, my big rule for making any music is don't delete anything, because there is something good in everything. And I'm really glad I kept that philosophy about making music, because it's something that I really incorporate a lot in my music, is resampling and trying to rework something or work something bad into something that's better, I guess. But yeah, don't delete anything. Back everything up.
What DAW do you use?
I am mainly a Logic user, so like 90% of the time I'm in Logic. The other 10% I use Ableton a little bit, but generally for Ableton I will be using it to probably sample the modular synth sometimes, or set up a live set, which is something that I really want to work on in the next couple of months anyway. I want to try and make a live set that will work with the modular synth and some other instruments and vocals, so that I can play a couple of live shows.
Yeah, because you had mentioned that you're a session player by trade. I was curious if you wanted to kind of move to being a performer of your own music.
Yeah, it's something that I think I have space to do both in. Like it's not, I would never give up playing with other people. It's just way too fun for me. I get a lot out of it, and I just love seeing other people thriving in that environment where there's great music being played, and their music is they get to hear it as something bigger than themselves and their instrument. But definitely something I want to consider is like doing my own live shows. I'm a performer, I guess. I don't think it'd be any different to playing my own music. The only issue is like playing more than one instrument at the same time, and singing live freaks me out.
Well, definitely, I think that you have done a great job starting out so far.
Well, thank you.
Igaito, thank you so much for taking your time out to talk with me and to do this, because I really know that you are going to head very far.
Thank you very much, Craig, and thank you for having me.
And that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Studio Chatter podcast. Until next time, you all stay safe and stay blessed.